Hey everyone, I hope your summer's going well. So this is the last kind of check-in vlog. Done all the readings and everything. I'm not really going to talk about the EU readings, just because nothing about them really surprised me. I already knew most of the information because as a James Madison student, part of 202 for James Madison classes focused on the EU, and I also helped organize an academic panel on Brexit and the EU this past semester. So, I don't know, I feel like I don't have anything to add to that. Since I had to read only 3 novels for my English class, I want to keep this part relatively short and just make a general statement about each novel. I really enjoyed Handmaid's Tale. I think it was the most compelling and thought-provoking of the 3 that I read, which I'll talk more about in my vlog for the class. And then I thought Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit was the most straightforward and easy to understand, and Les Grieux was the most challenging and theoretical piece that I read. As far as videos go, the first one I want to talk about is the TED Talk. I would butcher the name, but I do have the little book that was made correspondence with the TED Talk by the same person. I totally agree with everything she says, but I thought it was interesting that we viewed this video along with the other videos, like Bruhos and her story in Queer Amsterdam, that showed kind of the different juxtapositions within the queer community when she has recently come under fire for some of her viewpoints, which excludes some of the queer community from being a part of the feminist movement. In a recent interview she said she doesn't think trans women are women and that they belong in the feminist movement, since before becoming trans women, which kind of always a trans woman, you don't just kind of become it. But anyway, she was like, oh, they experienced the privilege of being a man, so they can never be a real woman. And so that's kind of come under fire, and I think you can really see that in this speech with how she focuses on the binary between women and men. It isn't quite intersectional with race or kind of class or really anything like that. So those are just kind of my thoughts on that. But besides those aspects, I really do agree with the general what she was going for with the we need to plan for a different world, a fairer world where we raise people differently, which I kind of think is similar to what Bell Hooks said in anyway, yeah. Going on to Bruhos, I found that one very interesting. At first I didn't really know what to make of it because it was sorcery and all that different stuff which you don't quite see in a series about queer people. I found it very interesting that not only did it focus on gay people, but those gay people were people of color, besides the one white man who was very kind of understanding of his privilege. Even though he was gay, he's like, oh, but I'm also white, which I thought was really cool. I think the specific moment that made it all kind of connect for me was, I think it was in the 2nd or 3rd episode of the web series, where they were in their queer studies, queer theory class, and the professor was talking about, so there was the critique of Foucault's history of sexuality and the whole confession aspect, where those oppressed help to create the power above them by confession, whereas what you see is a lot of destruction of those oppressed people so that their narratives cannot even be told. And then it like cut to the rich old white man who's like, I'm gonna kill all these people, all these gay Latino people. And I thought that was kind of a very powerful scene, as in what it was saying. And then I also very much loved her story in Queer Amsterdam. If I wasn't so poor, I'd donate to her story, but I am poor. My favorite part about her story was Lisa, which showed the contention within the different LGBT community. When, Lisa was like, trans women aren't real women, they're dudes in women's clothing, which reminded me of a couple things. First being the Target bathroom kind of thing that was going on, and I think that it was important that it was Lisa, someone who was within the LGBT plus community, because it showed the different contention within it. And then it also reminded me of Stone Butch Blues. One of Jess's friends within Stone Butch Blues is also kind of like the same way. And accepting trans people as they became more prominent in that community, and also lesbian relationships that weren't just butch and femme, but maybe butch and butch and femme, or, people who identified without those two aspects of the lesbian community and became their own, whatever. And so I think that's interesting because it shows that this is a long-standing contention, it didn't just develop suddenly. These issues have kind of always been there, and they just kind of haven't been confronted. And then I really like Queer Amsterdam because it kind of did the same thing with the relationship between Mira and Sam, as Mira kind of confronted, what's really important in a relationship. Is it the gender of someone or who they are as a person? And I think that could be very explosive outside of the LGBT plus community, as it might make people more aware of, what are you doing when you define yourself as straight or a lesbian? Are you thinking, I'm going to be exclusive or inclusive in my relationships, and that sort of thing. And then also, I'm not sure if we were supposed to watch the kind of extras that were outside of the actual web series Queer Amsterdam, but there were 11 extra little episode things where they interviewed trans people, and there were stories from the dark rooms and stuff like that. I really like their episode on bisexuality and pansexuality. As someone who identifies as pan, I do often feel that people lump me in with being bi, and that just isn't it, and so I really like that episode as kind of informational wise, making people more aware. But I think it also brought up a more important point, because bisexuality is also very invalidated a lot within the community and erased quite often. So they talk about the contention when a bi woman goes to a lesbian party, and how just the contention that is there in the room, and how they're oh, you're not a real lesbian and stuff like that. And it's I don't understand how you can still like men, and how if pan people are also kind of lumped in with bi people, it kind of just shows how the erasure is just so ever present in the LGBT plus community if they don't fit into this certain narrative of liking only men and only women, or so that was my takeaway there. And it really does apply to the Queer Amsterdam web series itself. With Mir and Sam, which I already said, so I'll cut that out. Okay, lastly, how's my life going? Let's see. Monday, I took the LSAT, so that's finally over with. I find out in a couple days if I got the score that I wanted or not, so I really hope I don't have to take it again, because it's like $180 each time you have to take it, and it's also like 5 hours in a room. It's terrible. I also had to get a tooth pulled out, and I had that done Saturday, so I've been recovering from that. I haven't started traveling yet. I leave on June 27th along with Carter, Malia, and Ashley. We're going to Paris. That'll be super fun. And I am so excited to go to Amsterdam. I just found out that they're famous for French fries, and I love potatoes. It's like my favorite food group. So I'm very excited. I mean, besides that, I'm also excited, to go and learn things. But, like, potatoes. So, that's exciting. And I'm excited to see everybody and just have a great time. So, yeah.